Well, hello, hello. It's good to see you again, and welcome back to Optimizing Your Financial World. I'm your host and moderator, Ryan Ruff, and as always, we've got our star. That's Mr. Mark Wade, president of Echelon Family Office. He's going to be stopping by, joining us for another wealth management discussion. That's what we tackle here on the show. And today we're going to be reverting towards a conversation and a topic that Mark and I have had prior, in an episode prior on this show, surrounding the idea of preparing heirs for their wealth. But today we're going to be taking a slightly different angle towards looking at heirs and the wealth that they inherit one day. So I want to frame things up for you guys. It's not always easy to inherit significant wealth. I mean, sure, the common misconception is, oh my gosh, all this wealth is going to change my life for the better, right? Many inheritors, though, feel tremendous amounts of pressure to prove that they deserve the money. And that pressure can lead to some not so great things, maybe big problems, even depending on how well they've managed that situation and they've managed their true ability of inheriting that wealth and what they're doing with it. So today, Mark and I are going to be exploring what life looks like after the inheritance, so to speak, and different ways that inheritors can feel more validated and more comfortable with their wealth when that time comes. So with that being said, let's bring Mark out and get right into it. Mark, good to see you this morning. How are you doing?
Hey, Ryan, how are you today?
I'm good. I'm good. We got a good topic here, a little nuanced from a topic that we talked about recently. About preparing heirs. Obviously, today's conversation going to be a little bit more focused towards after that inheritance has taken shape. But first question to you, Mark. We'll start high level, like we typically do. I think many people would just assume that inheriting significant wealth only has upsides, but you and I both know that's not the case. But talk to us about the pressures, the challenges that can also be associated with this moment.
Wow, in 43 years, we've seen so many different things, Ryan. And oftentimes, when inheritors, receive wealth from their parents, grandparents, or other family members, I can't tell you how often it's accompanied by feelings of they may have some self-doubt or maybe even guilt. Many inheritors have this great desire or even a need to try and justify the wealth that they've received and to prove to those around them that they deserve to receive it in some way. And they might even consider it to be unearned money. So it's a pretty common issue, and it often doesn't get addressed, as well as or often as it should.
Sure. So, Mark, would you say that this is one of those issues that should actually be considered by both sides of the coin, and that's the inheritors as well as the matriarchs and patriarchs? Am I correct in saying that? What are your thoughts on that?
No, it's a great point. When there's, family wealth being transferred, everyone involved should be aware of this need for legitimacy, right? It can empower a lot of inheritors, to do some great things, but it can also, reveal the dark side that comes with, wealth destroying problems. So if you think, you're someone who may someday pass substantial wealth on, to a child, it's good, or not even wealth, or if you're likely to be one who's going to be receiving, you know, a large sum of money. It really does make sense to understand that some of the key baggage that comes along with the inheritance, so you can navigate through the opportunities and the challenges that are going to come with receiving that wealth. It could be enormous.
I'm sure. I'm sure. And Mark, let's look at the types of people, the types of inheritors that we're dealing with. Do you tend that there are to see that there might be a specific type of inheritor that does experience that self doubt or guilt? Would you say maybe it impacts more types of people than others? What are we looking at here?
Well, Ryan, it's interesting. I'm going to say that inheritors of large fortunes, generally you can divide them into two main categories. You know, there are those heirs that are going to likely possess some combination of, and I hate to think of it this way, but, greediness or narcissism, okay, and a tendency to be a little bit self-indulgent. These are the stereotypical, let's call them bad seeds. And they're going to spend and live life recklessly, and they're not going to think about the consequences. So, you know, their wealth oftentimes serves as nothing more than a way to cause more problems. This group of of individuals are the ones that, the common term is affluenza. where individuals focus only on their hedonistic wants. So the bad seeds and the overprivileged children, of which these individuals are, they're often going to be destroyed by their family's money, and they sometimes help eradicate or diminish to a large degree the family's fortune. So, and then there, in stark contrast, there are heirs who, most people would describe as being, worthy of their family fortunes, and that is they are the hardworking as well as socially astute, socially responsible individuals, the inheritors of wealth that are going to do great and good things with it.
So, in looking at those two types of inheritors, Mark, would you say it's those so called worthy heirs that are the ones that are kind of seeking that need for validation or legitimacy?
Yeah, but not all of them, of course. There are going to be those who accept, who and what they are, including that they're extremely wealthy, right? This cohort of wealthy inheritors, consists of individuals who are mostly well-adjusted, people who can handle the money. Okay, they handle their wealth maturely and responsibly, and they're doing things that are important to them, and without much doubt or second guessing with respect to how they're going to deal with their fortunes. So they have a good head on their shoulders, and they know what they want to accomplish. And then there are the legitimacy seeking good heirs. Okay, having not earned the wealth, they feel no sense of entitlement, as the bad rich often do. Instead, they feel that they need to prove they deserve this wealth that they've received, and to validate the fact that they've received a great fortune. So, in short, I'm going to say they're looking to justify their entitlement to the family money. They're looking to prove to themselves and to others that they deserve having this type of inheritance.
So I want to get into the heart of this, and it really it kind of it's the why, really, Mark. Why would you say is there that need then to prove they deserve an inheritance, and why is that? Why is that potentially a problem down the road? You would think it's a good thing. They want to prove themselves, but why can that be a problem?
Well, it's strange, Ryan. It's kind of like a double-edged sword because it can motivate and at the same time it can damage. Inheritors who are looking for that validation for their wealth, they often put pressure on themselves, undue pressure in many cases because they may have been hardwired. They may or their personality may be hardwired in such a manner that it causes them to want to accomplish great things in life, or they feel a pressure to live up to the older generation's expectations of them, right? And in some families where accomplishments are the best way to get attention, which many affluent families, they put a lot of focus on that, to get attention, okay, and maybe to get love. For example, these heirs often become highly motivated to excel, not always for the best reasons. And then in other situations, parents tell their children directly or sometimes indirectly that the children are not as capable as they are. They kind of set them up for failure in some ways, So the inheritors in these situations, they aim to oftentimes surpass what the elders did as proof of their competence and proof of their rightful position in the family, including as the inheritors of the family wealth. So because of the pressure, oftentimes the good rich heirs can feel, they run the risk of encountering the same outcomes as do the bad seed heirs. For example, sometimes heirs are looking for validation. They can suffer from depression, other psychological issues, as well as addictions to various different things. And many of them often are taking excessive risk, and that hurts the family and its chances of having the wealth continue and their status continue.
No, no, I get it, Mark. And for those heirs that feel the need to, seek out that validation or that legitimacy, would you say there are some smarter ways to go about getting that validation and achieving that legitimacy? Are there any smart methods that you might be able to offer today?
Yeah, good question, actually. Some of the best ways we've seen families deal with this is for those inheritors to work for the family business, if there is one. In many cases, there is. Okay, or to take a position in a non-family owned company, or think about this nowadays to pursue entrepreneurship. Right? It's not uncommon for the inheritors to strive to create greater business empires than their elders did, And if they're taking over the family business, for example, their goal may be to make it, substantially more successful than it was when they inherited it. And if it's an entrepreneurial venture, then the objective might be, to build something of extremely high value, even game changing. That's a real popular, terminology nowadays. Game changing. A company that demonstrates the inheritors' creativity and their business acumen at the same time. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot that can be done to help people avoid, that sense of legitimacy, and I'm sorry, to avoid the need to feel that they need to be legitimate in their own mind. They can just go out and make it happen.
Okay, I know, and that's great stuff, Mark. But let's look at the other type of inheritor where maybe they're not particularly inclined towards business, or they're not business savvy as a whole. What do you have to say about those inheritors in these instances?
Hey, Ryan, that's a really great question and a good point to bring up. For those individuals who are not in the family business or not in business at all, really, I have seen in my 43 years other avenues for them to take, and one of them, is philanthropy as an alternative approach, because charitable giving can often validate the amassing of great wealth because a portion of it is being given away to worthwhile causes. So, when giving is done effectively, these inheritors not only do well by others, but they also benefit themselves and their families in a variety of different ways. The charitable acts, can significantly boost their family status, can demonstrate their moral and societal priorities. Just a number of good things can happen from that. Not to mention, again, we always say it's not the most important thing, but there are some significant tax advantages involved in being philanthropically inclined too. But, with that said, these options are not, they're not mutually exclusive. Inheritors, they can commonly focus on both business, in the business world and a business career, and philanthropic interests at the same time. And they can, achieve some really strong outcomes in doing so. They could also go in a completely different direction. Some people, pursue a career in academia, and that allows them to gain and impart some specialized knowledge in areas they feel passionate about, and relay that information and knowledge on to people down the road.
Roger that, Mark. So, I mean, as we're kind of bringing our episode here to a head, I think the bottom line, what I'm gathering from the conversation today, is that it really is key for inheritors to be sure that they're living meaningful lives. That's ultimately the bottom line, correct? How would you emphasize and close things out for us today, just about bottom lining it for those inheritors out there and what they really should be seeking out in terms of that legitimacy and how they can do it?
Wow. Well, that's a profound statement. I think you just said it, Ryan. No, absolutely. These inheritors, they got to plant their flag in the ground in some meaningful way, regardless of the approach that they choose, right? Whether it's business, whether it's, philanthropy, whether it's academia, they've got to plant their flag. They have to say, this is what I believe in. So, the bottom line is the inheritors who seek, feelings of validation, which is what a lot of this is about, right? Self-validation. Those who seek that validation and that feeling of legitimacy, they often channel those needs into considerable success using the opportunities afforded to them by their sizable inherited wealth. Um, but these inheritors can spend much of their lives plagued by doubt and uncertainties. They could have those feelings of guilt and of not measuring up, which is why it's so important for them to plant that flag and stand for something. you know, you should let, inheritors know that they can voice their feelings and their concerns about their situations rather than bury them deep inside and feel ashamed about them. An empathetic family member or financial advisor could play a huge role in this regard. It's important to help the inheritors understand that there are options and possibilities they have for pursuing a meaningful life paths in a way that can help them feel more deserving about their inherited affluence, and to be able to support them in that process. It's really important to do that. Most oftentimes they just need to find the way to do it.
Sure. And Mark, you mentioned that support that could be found through a family member or even a financial advisor. Mark, I know you 43 years of doing this. You've had these conversations before. For anybody out in our audience that might be, interested in reaching out to you and your team to talk about, inheritances, estate planning, this whole process, what would be the best way they could get in touch with you to just open up a dialogue?
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. People love to visit us on the web. They can visit us at www.echelonoffice. That's ECHE, the word office.com. They can contact me directly. I'd love to have a conversation with them. They can reach me at mwade, that's MWADE, at echelonwealth.com, ECHELON, the word wealth.com. Or why don't you just call directly in, call us at 888-892-9882.
Fantastic. Well, Mark, look, I know you're a busy guy. You've got plenty of clients to serve. We'll let you get back to doing that. But I appreciate you jumping on here and diving into this conversation. There's a lot of different conversations that we've covered on this show surrounding heirs and this big moment in their lives where they inherit that wealth. But it is just as important as the preparation side is what comes after it. And I think today did a nice job of shedding some light on that. So thank you. And I'll see you on the next one.
Hey, thanks, Ryan. These lessons we learn that really come from the super rich, they're so important to people of all economic levels. So thanks so much. Look forward to seeing you again.
Alrighty, fantastic, Mark. And hey, look, before we leave, we also want to say one final thank you to our audience. We appreciate you guys stopping by and being with us here on the show today. And as always, if you took anything away from today's discussion, you benefited from it, go ahead and hit that subscribe button on whichever platform you checked us out on today. That way you will never miss out on a new episode here on the show where Mark and I are going to be unpacking the different wealth management strategies and solutions that he and his clients are operating with over at Echelon Family Office. So for Mark, I'm Ryan. We're going to go ahead and say so long, but we appreciate you stopping by and being with us here on today's installment of Optimizing Your Financial World.